ready to drive your career, not just ride along? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. I'm Simone E. Morris, your host and career strategist, here to give you the roadmap. Each week, we're cutting through the noise with strategies, stories, and insights to get you back in control. Your career clarity starts right here. Welcome to this special episode of the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. Today, I'm delighted to have on the show Lorraine K. Lee. She is a keynote speaker, a best-selling author of the book Unforgettable Presence, Get Seen, Gain Influence, and Catapult Your Career. And she's an instructor with LinkedIn Learning, as well as at Stanford. Her insights have been featured in media outlets like CNBC, CNN, Forbes, Bloomberg, Fast Company, and Financial Times. Lorraine, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Simone. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. So I want to immediately go to your book because in the beginning you mentioned crafting your career brand, and this show talks a lot about your career brand and your
Right.
career formula and the driver's seat. So you say in your book, your brand is your story, the quick summary of what you offer other people. It tells people how you can help them and why they should want to work with you. It tells your colleagues what they can depend on you for and what makes you unique. Tell us about your career brand.
So I think a career brand is so important. It was something I wish I had known about earlier in my career. I think I would have gotten promoted and moved up much faster. And so I think what's important when talking about a brand, and I'm sure you've talked about this on the show, Simone, is, first of all, what is a brand? Career brand is essentially your personal brand, which is essentially your reputation. Now, if we think about it that way, because I know a lot of people, they hear personal brand and they're like, ugh, slimy, I'm like promoting myself all the time. But if you know that it's your reputation, well, then we all already have a brand or a career brand, and it's up to us to be in the driver's seat or to, be the CEO of our own career and to really take control of that narrative, right? That's going to allow us to really shine at work and to really reach our goals much faster. And so when I was working at LinkedIn, I was a founding editor there. I was there for 6 years, hard worker, worked on high visibility projects, well liked by my colleagues, all things I assumed would naturally help me move up the corporate ladder. But I wasn't able to. I never got that promotion that I really wanted. And it was only after I left LinkedIn where I had some more time to reflect. I had time to ask around, like what went wrong. And I realized a lot of it did boil down to both my presence and also as part of presence, career brand is such a critical piece because people weren't seeing me in the way that I needed to be seen in order to reach that next level. So um, for me now, my career brand, it's a lot of different things. It sort of changes depending on who you're talking to and your audience and the context. But I have 10 plus years as a founding editor in tech. I think that's very integral to my story. I really value relationships. I value being reliable, trustworthy, following through on what I say I'm going to do. And actually, in the book, as you saw, I came up with something called the Epic Career Brand Framework to help people start thinking through because it can feel very overwhelming at times. Like, where do I even start?
And where did you start? So let's go back in
Yeah,
your
yeah, yeah,
journey before you got to LinkedIn and what you were thinking in terms
yeah.
of careers. What is it that you wanted to be when you were growing up?
So I always really enjoyed writing, and I loved journalism. Started in middle school, high school, became editor in chief of my school paper.
Right.
Studied journalism at Northwestern, but knew actually, even though I loved it, knew I didn't want that to be my career. So I landed in tech. This was 2012. A lot of tech companies were looking for content people, which is not like a career I had envisioned for myself, but I'm originally from LA as well, and I had just been reading all these articles about Silicon Valley and just like how it was booming. And so I was like, it's close enough to LA. Let me just try it out and see what happens. And yeah, so that led to, a decade in tech in editorial roles. Um, 2021, I started public speaking, more so as a way to learn this skill on my own, not really to like become a speaker, but it kind of became that. And then I became a LinkedIn learning instructor. So that was like a little side hustle. And then impacted by tech layoffs at the end of 2022. So many were happening at that time. And that's the point where I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just try to do my own thing, give it a year, let's see what happens. And
Yeah.
now we're coming up on year three and so much has happened.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
I'm in year 10 of doing my own thing.
Oh
So
my
I
gosh, amazing.
congratulate you on, yeah.
Kudos to you. 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
I can only dream. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But you know, what's interesting to me, Lorraine, is that you said you learned after you left your organization. And I believe that that happens for a lot of people that, if only you knew when you were
Yeah.
inside your organization. And you talked about feedback, and I'm curious, who did you ask? You said, I wanted to know what
Yeah.
went wrong. Who did you talk to?
Yeah. Well, I talked to people within the company, like talking more to mentors, people outside the company. I think it's also really helpful to get that outside perspective too. And then just talking to, friends and family more, like, they kind of hear maybe the less good things about work or the struggles or frustrations. It was like more focused time to be thoughtful about it versus like in the job, you're trying to do the job
Yeah,
and get your work done and still do well, but then there's like frustrations that linger. But then when you step away, you get more perspective, and a lot of it was introspection as well. And
yeah,
just talking to other people who, yeah, were like more senior, and you just hear from them like what they had to do to get to that point, and you're like, oh, I wasn't doing that.
right,
But I'll
right.
do it next time. Yeah, next job I join. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. After I left my corporate gig, I discovered my three P's.
Huh?
Having a plan, which I did not have a good plan. I had the
Mm.
company's plan, having
Yep, yep.
strategic partnership, and
Yeah.
what you're talking about, that personal brand and
Yeah.
socializing your personal brand. And so that's why what you're saying in the book and here is deeply resonating with me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of people, I don't know if you felt this way, Simone, in your job. And I certainly did this at LinkedIn, where you tie your brand very closely to the company.
Oh,
So,
I
yeah, so
did
that was
that for
also,
sure.
yeah, that was also a mistake. And afterwards, I was like, I left LinkedIn. I'm like, who am I?
Yeah.
Like what's what do I talk about on LinkedIn? Because I was just posting things about LinkedIn, like about my job. So that was an eye opener as well. It's like good to be loyal and to do hard work, but your brand is yours, and that will stay with you no matter where you go.
Yes, yes. But because you brought up LinkedIn and
Yes.
undoubtedly on this show, people, I do
Yeah.
coaching as well. People are a little bit afraid of LinkedIn. And
Sure.
I know you've got
Mhm.
like a content strategy. I was looking through your book. You've got a content strategy about how to post effectively on the
Yeah.
platform and all that
Mhm.
good stuff. And you've got the intel. So give our audience some little tidbits on how they can show up with their personal brand on the LinkedIn platform. I know you're
Yeah.
not LinkedIn, but because
Oh, I mean, I talk about LinkedIn all the time. I'm still, love it, and I think it's like just completely transformed my career. So, the thing to your point, Simone, is that LinkedIn can be scary for a lot of people, and that's natural. So I want to just normalize that even while I was an editor at LinkedIn and it was my job to post content on behalf of LinkedIn, I still got very nervous anytime I had to hit that post button. So if anyone listening is feeling that way, totally natural. So, what I like to say is your LinkedIn presence, the profile is really that foundational piece. So you want to make sure that's up to snuff with a background photo, with a headline that goes beyond just job title at company. Um, Fleshing out your featured section, making sure your about section, you're using up all the space. I think it's like 2,200 characters. So include keywords, include your story, make sure it's personalized to you. I don't want to see an about section that I could just lift up and plop on someone else's page and no one would know the difference, right? So that's all really critical. And then the real magic happens, I think, when you start posting content, getting your voice out there, and just really staying top of mind, whether you're in a job or not in a job. Like, people are so distracted, out of sight, out of mind, right? So when you start posting, it does a number of wonderful things. So yes, you stay top of mind. One thing that surprised me was I really gained a lot of confidence and found my voice. So the more you write and the more you're willing to put yourself out there, like I took that, I used that internally when I was still at a company called Prezi at the time. That helped my career grow. So sometimes people are like, oh, you only post on LinkedIn if you're looking for a job. no, it can really strengthen your corporate role as well. One thing I would call out for the people who are perhaps nervous about posting, putting themselves out there, is try commenting first. Comments, I always say comments equal content. It's a much less, I think, high stakes way to start figuring out what do I want to talk about, like what's my expertise, and to start building relationships. And relationships is one of, the most powerful things that you get out of LinkedIn. I've met so many people I never would have met or talked to through LinkedIn. I'm sure, it's the case with you as well, Simone. And it's just such a important place to be because most people now, when they meet you, or even if they haven't met you before, they're going to your LinkedIn first. They're
That's
making
right.
those quick judgments, and they're deciding, are you credible? Are you someone, I want to spend my time talking to?
Yeah, it's like the LinkedIn before your resume,
Yes,
and so yeah, it's
definitely these
a
days. Yeah.
different time. Now, this show is about, thank you for those LinkedIn tidbits that you shared with us, much more audience in the book. So, this show is about being in the driver's seat for your career. And I
Mhm.
wonder about your career journey. When did you realize that you were in the driver's seat for your career?
I don't think until my most recent corporate job when I was at Prezi, which
Hmm.
happened right after LinkedIn. So I think after leaving LinkedIn, again, a lot of lessons learned, a lot of reflection and introspection. And through that, I realized, okay, I want to approach this next role very differently. I was already coming in as a manager for the first time. I wanted to reach that senior level of management. And so that's really where I was like, okay, I need to become the CEO of my own career. I didn't call it that at the time, but that's what I was doing, where I need to be really intentional. I need to understand all the moving pieces. I need to understand the decision makers. I need to be really clear about what it is that I want and come up with the steps to get to that goal versus just like, fingers crossed, I've been here for X number of years and I do good work. Like,
Yep.
I assume I'm gonna get promoted, and that was my also mistake at LinkedIn. So it was definitely at Prezi where I was just very much more like methodical, thoughtful, strategic, and intentional.
Mm. And I receive that deeply. So, and thank you for your transparency with sharing
Mhm.
your experience too. So, I wonder when you said to yourself, the intentionality and the strategic
Mhm.
vision is so clear as levers to getting ahead in your career.
Yeah,
But to be fair, culturally, there is education that says
yeah,
do the hard work and the
mhm,
results will come. And so there's a
yeah,
unlearning that
yeah,
has to happen. And there's a
yeah,
certain level of maturity that comes with that where you're like, oh,
mhm,
aha,
yeah,
I need to do more because that alone will not get me where I want to go. So I want to have
yeah.
appreciation for you saying, that you were thinking this hard work, but we've been taught that and not just you.
Yeah. Yeah, well, especially like, culturally Asian American background, women, like
Hmm.
and schooling, it just teaches
Yep,
you to like it does teach you to work hard, get good grades, next step.
that's
And
right.
so to your point, like and we don't get it's not like a class that when we enter the workplace we get taught this. So it's either like you figure it out on your own or you learn it or you have a mentor helping you or you just kind of stay stuck in that place because yeah, that's not the way that corporations work.
That's right. And I would dare say that add to that mentor, a sponsor, because you
Yes.
need people looking out for you, because
Yes.
sometimes your word alone is not enough to level you up to that next level. Other
Yeah.
people, to your point about the career brand and what
Yeah.
people are saying about
Yep.
that reputation we talked about at the beginning, we
Mhm.
need to have sponsors that are stepping up as stakeholders for us and speaking our elevation into existence, lending their brand capital to help us get ahead.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that phrasing brand capital. When I talked about the Epic career brand framework earlier, that C is community. Now, what is community? Well, perception is reality. So like let's say my brand is this, but everyone thinks it's this over here. Misalignment, that's not going to be
Yep,
my brand. It's how other people see you. And to your point, Simone, like it's also like, do people even know I exist in the first place? And then also, are they saying my name when I'm not there? That's really how you sort of have a more supercharge, exponentially growing brand by having
that's
other
right.
people say things when you're not there. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, when you found out about the decision makers, what were you doing with that information? You're like, okay, these are the decision makers. Now what?
Yeah. So I initially thought with promotion time, it's just my manager deciding, is she ready? Is she not ready? Little did I realize there's a room and there's like only so much budget to go around. So once I learned who the decision makers were, I talked to all of them. You have to make it known to all of them that you
Yep,
want to get promoted. You want to get them on your side ahead of that meeting or that
that's right.
or that conversation. So it's letting them know your goals. It's maybe asking them for advice or feedback and just building those relationships. So much of work comes down to relationships. And
Hmm.
it's not being disingenuous, right? It's again just being proactive and intentional. You have a goal, and just being really clear and explicit about it. And if you can get them on your side and rooting for you and supporting you, like it's only going to help you when it comes time to that more formalized talk.
Yeah, Lorraine, you bringing me back to my time in corporate America where all this conversation is, making me go back to the place like, geez, I wish I knew that. I didn't get the
Yeah.
book. We didn't get your Unforgettable Presence book to get in and know the unwritten rules and how to navigate the landscape. And so you're making me think about that history. But I
Yeah.
want to make sure that I don't forget to ask you about your formula for owning your career. Tell us, what are the key
Mm.
ingredients that you believe is
Yeah.
helpful to you? What is your formula for owning your career?
Yeah, so much of it for me really boiled down to mindset.
Mhm.
And again, like I feel like early in my career, I was just like more of like I guess to use your driver's seat analogy, like more of a passenger. I'm just like along for the ride and things will just naturally like fall into place. And with becoming the CEO of your own career, it's really telling people that you have to be intentional and you are going to be the person who cares most about your career. Like, even if you have the best manager who wants to see you succeed and grow, I mean, just think about how busy we are in a given day. Right now, your manager is thinking about their career, they're managing up to their manager, they maybe have multiple direct reports. That's a lot on their plate. And so
Yep.
I always like to say, like, if not you, then who? Right? So,
Hmm.
CEO of your own career is really that mindset of like, I have more control than I think. It's not just like the corporate gods just sort of,
Yep.
deciding yes or no. And I'm going to do everything in my power to treat myself like a business. Like, you're going to care most again. And so, how can I just make sure I'm doing everything that I can to set myself up in the driver's seat or to really become or act like the CEO of me?
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. And were there any resources that helped you with that mindset, that growth mindset?
Yeah,
Were there
yeah.
things that classes, podcasts, articles, what resources have been helpful to help you level up in your career?
It's so many. I had the chance to interview nearly 3 dozen leaders, experts in my book, which is so fun. One of the best parts about the book writing process. And so there's folks like Matt Abraham's communications expert. I have his book behind me here.
I
Vanessa Van
actually know
Edwards.
him.
Do you? Okay, how did you
He's from
meet?
Stanford, right?
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
know him. I've got to think about how I know him, but we are connected on LinkedIn and we have crossed
Ah,
paths. I'm gonna look
oh,
it
amazing.
up.
Love it.
He's
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 also,
very
yeah,
sharp.
he
Yeah.
is. He's a mentor. He's a friend. Vanessa Van Edwards, also wonderful content out there. And really just like all the executives in the book and the thought leaders in the book, just following them and just consume. I think consuming more content really helped. Again, like when you're sort of passive, you're just not being proactive, like trying to learn. But when you like are like, oh, what are like the communication skills or the mindset shifts or the way I present, like all of this really helps with the growth mindset. And I think for me, probably the biggest change or transformation for my career was um, leaning into public speaking.
Mm.
Because even though I was very, very nervous, I did not like it. You read in the book, introvert, shy, like all of these things that were pushing me away from it. I just saw how important it was to grow a career, how people who could speak well and feel confident just shone more like in the workplace, right? And so I'm so happy that I pushed through that discomfort, sort of like pushing through the discomfort of posting on LinkedIn, right? The really uncomfortable things are where there's the biggest opportunity to grow.
Yeah, yeah. The public speaking is one of the top 10 fears.
Yeah,
So
not
to go
surprised.
into that space, I remember in corporate America having to give a talk and just being petrified, like
Yeah,
I don't know what, having the light shine on me
yeah,
And that's when I joined a Toastmaster. So, there are a lot of
Oh,
resources out there. And I do believe what you're talking about, the communication, how
yeah.
you communicate effectively, how you manage up, executive
Mhm.
presence. There's so many different characteristics or traits that it's important to really hone in on and be better at in order for you to get that promotion or to
Yes,
move your career upwards.
exactly, exactly.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, tell us about relationships and networking and how you went about
Mhm.
that to move forward in your career or to grow your career. It doesn't always have to be about promotion.
Sure, sure. Yeah, and that's also a great point. Everyone has different goals at different points. So yeah, networking, so important, especially and most important when you're not looking for something, right? And you don't
That's
need
right.
anything. Yeah.
That's
And
right.
so yeah, networking, as an introvert, took some figuring out.
Mhm.
Showing up to a big conference or event and not having a game plan is going to just make you so tired and just burn you out right away. And so I've learned some strategies that have really helped me that I think can help whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. So, for example, one thing I do that works really well is before going to an event, a happy hour or anything like that, I'll get the attendee list ahead of time and I will send a LinkedIn connection request and let them know I'm going to be there and I look forward to meeting them. And I did this earlier this year. I went to a networking event and I was like a little bit awkward, just I didn't know who to go up to. I didn't know anyone. And someone ended up coming up to me and they were like, "Oh, you're Lorraine like from LinkedIn. You added me." And so it's just like a really good icebreaker and almost makes it more of like a warm intro, when you first engage with them. And then for introverts as well, like meeting people through LinkedIn, commenting on their posts, that's still a form of networking in my opinion, because that person who posts is going to start recognizing your name. They're going to be curious about you. I know this is certainly the case for me. And then eventually, when it's time when you've engaged with them enough and you're interested in chatting with them, that's another really nice way to sort of warm things up before you actually reach out and make it more likely that someone's going to say yes.
I think that's terrific. And you're making me think of Goldie Chan
Oh
because
yeah, a
I
friend, yeah.
interviewed her on the podcast and
Oh
she was
good.
talking about personal branding for
Mm,
introverts. And because you mentioned the term
yes.
introverts, I thought of her. But yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of cool things that could be done. And thanks for giving us that tip because oftentimes well, if it's a large conference, I know that I've seen the attendee list, but you can't always get the attendee list, can you?
Sure. Not always, no, but you can like the speakers, for example, you can send the speakers a note.
Yeah.
You can let's see what else you can do. You can post on LinkedIn and let people know you're going to be there, and there might be people in your network who are like, "Oh, I'm going to be there too. Let's
Yeah.
meet up." So
Yeah.
there's things like that where you can kind of work around it.
That's a great tip. That's a great tip. So if you had well, you've got the book Unforgettable Presence, but let's think about a headline for your career body of work. What do you think the
Ooh.
title would be to summarize your impact, your legacy, your career body of work? What do you think the title would be?
I mean, I hope it's something around unforgettable presence. I'm really building that out, but like sort of maybe to get more granular with it, it's helping professionals go from overlooked to unforgettable. Like that's sort of my mission statement now, where people who again do the great work, are well liked, have all the ingredients for success, right? How can I get them from point A to point B where people know who they are, where they know how to communicate their value clearly, make themselves known, and do it in a way, excuse me, and do it in a way that feels authentic and genuine to them.
I love that. I love that tagline because you know what? There are a ton of people. Do we have data? It would be great if we had data to say 80% of the workforce is overlooked, Where do we get that
Yeah.
data? Yeah.
Yeah, I nothing that I know of right now, but just talking to so many people, you just see it anecdotally and like I speak at Fortune 500 companies and teams and yeah, and a lot of companies are cutting training now, so it's like you're not even getting the training that could help you become more unforgettable. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a unfortunate thing that's happening, but very important, right? Because you want to know how to stand out. It's so competitive now. The
Yep.
world is so distracted.
Yep.
So these are critical workplace human skills, soft skills, people skills that are needed to also differentiate you from AI, right?
Oh, very, very true. I'm glad you brought up tech.
Yeah.
So what do you teach on LinkedIn Learning?
Oh, so many topics. So I have 19 courses out.
Wow, you've been
We
doing this for, you were doing this while you were at LinkedIn as well?
No, no, it just
Oh,
happened
really?
over, yeah, I think my first course was launched I think right before my layoff. So
Oh,
it's just been the past few years. So it's a wide spectrum of topics, but leadership, management, communication. So similar to all, the topics in my book. But many of my courses are nano courses, so 10 minutes or less, perfect for fast learning.
oh, that's awesome. Oh, you're so fascinating. Way to go. Good for you.
Thank
Any
you.
parting words as we begin to wrap up today's interview?
I would say to continue to build your presence. Presence is not just executive presence and how we show up in a room in those high stakes moments. Presence is both about how and where you are seen. So that also means video presence, LinkedIn presence. You have a presence in a Slack channel, in an email. So really focus and realize that you have control over your presence in many of the smaller touch points we have in a given day. So it's one of the things that helped me most in my career. I think for people who, really like actionable steps. Like I think this is like the right way to approach it. Sometimes we think of CEO of our career, presence or executive presence, such big topics.
Yeah.
And it's like where do I even start? So focus on sort of those smaller touch points that you have that are just as important. They're where people engage with you most, and I'm excited for your audience to read the book and check out the advice, and then also reach out to me on LinkedIn if you'd like, and share what resonates with you or how you've implemented the framework. I would love to hear it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I do want to ask you about, I just thought of this while you were
Oh,
talking about
sure, yeah.
risk, because you had to take a risk to start your own company and how with all the knowledge that you gained post your corporate positions with that
Mhm.
wisdom and writing the book, your perspective on taking risk in your career.
Yeah, it was a risk. I was fortunate enough that I had savings and I had just enough um, sort of evidence through the side hustle, through making money for the first time outside of corporate,
Mhm.
that maybe there was something there. And I have to say, building my brand, being a public speaker, doing the scary things and realizing that you're turning out okay on the other side, that really gave me a lot of confidence to try it. And really the worst case scenario, which is not the worst case scenario, is okay, I find a job. I gave myself a year, and then at the end of the first year, I was like, there's enough momentum here, and let's keep going. But if there wasn't, or I realized, oh, I actually don't like being an entrepreneur, you apply for a job, and you continue and take all the lessons you learned from that 1 year and keep going.
All right, Lorraine. Well, it was a pleasure indeed to have you on the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. Can you please tell your listeners how to stay connected with you after this episode?
Of course. So I'm Lorraine Kaylee on LinkedIn and on Instagram. I am actually coming out with a learning experience next year tied to the book Unforgettable Presence. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, subscribe to my newsletter, lorrainekaylee.com/subscribe, you will get all the updates there.
All right. All right. Well, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Simone.
You are very welcome. That's it for today's empowering episode. I'm Simone E. Morris, and I want you to remember that you are indeed the architect of your career. Share this episode if it sparked something in you. Subscribe wherever you listen and find more resources at SimoneMorrisEnterprises.org. Keep practicing career ownership, and I'll be right here with you next week for more transformation.